Welcome back to Beyond the Known, our series exploring the enduring mysteries of timeless Egypt. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating journey back to 1798.
1798, a pivotal year.
Exactly. It sort of unexpectedly laid the groundwork for how we understand ancient Egypt today, all thanks, strangely enough, to Napoleon Bonaparte's Egyptian campaign.
It really is a remarkable example, isn't it? How history can just take these completely unforeseen turns. A military expedition, inadvertently sparking this huge intellectual revelation.
Absolutely. So, okay, picture Europe, end of the 18th century. Napoleon, he's this rising star, fresh from victories in Italy.
Right, the celebrated young general.
Yeah. And the French Directory, they're looking for a way to hit their big rival, England. The initial idea is, well, let's invade across the channel.
The direct approach.
But Napoleon, he proposes something far more audacious. Let's go conquer Egypt.
A strategic gamble, definitely.
Yeah.
But with multiple layers of ambition involved.
Precisely. For one, Egypt was just massively important strategically. It was a key link in England's trade route to India.
Right, hit them where it hurts their economy.
Exactly. Disrupting that could seriously weaken the British. But, beyond the strategy, there was also Napoleon's personal ambition. He was, captivated by Alexander the Great.
Ah, yes, the historical echo. Alexander started his conquests in Egypt, too.
Right. There's that quote, something like, all great actions have their glorious moments. He definitely saw himself walking in those massive historical footsteps.
It really speaks to a grand vision, doesn't it? Blending military power with this sense of historical destiny.
It does. And what's really interesting, I think, is that Napoleon wasn't just driven by military aims or politics. He was actually a member of the French Institute.
So a genuine intellectual curiosity there.
Yeah, seems so. Think of him as maybe a culture enthusiast, even back then. He was known for his interest in art, in knowledge. He even made a point of cataloging artworks during his Italian campaigns.
That adds a really crucial dimension, I think, to his character and why he went to Egypt.
Exactly. Now, to really get the impact of this campaign on Egyptology, we have to remember just how little the West actually knew about Egypt then. Like, really knew accurately.
Right, the context is key.
Hieroglyphs, that incredibly intricate picture writing, still a complete mystery. Nobody could read them.
Totally undeciphered.
And there weren't any organized museums packed with artifacts like we have today. Maybe wealthy individuals might have had these cabinets of curiosities.
Ah, yes, those collections. Sort of random bits and pieces.
Pretty much. Small private collections, often with just random, uncontextualized stuff brought back from faraway lands. Maybe a mummified cat or a scarab beetle,
So the understanding of Egypt was based on these fragmented, often unreliable accounts.
Precisely. A lot of what they knew came from travelers, missionaries, maybe the odd sea captain. We have accounts from Captain Norden, a Dane, and Captain Pook, who was English. They were both in Egypt around the 1730s.
And their descriptions.
Well, they offer glimpses, but often lack detail, accuracy. Some of Norden's sketches, for example, they kind of suggest he didn't venture much beyond the port.
Right, not exactly in-depth field research.
Not at all. It just highlights this real absence of systematic study, of informed observation.
Which really underscores the need for a more rigorous, scholarly approach.
And that's where Napoleon's plan was just revolutionary for the time. He didn't just gather an army. He brought along this extraordinary team, about 150 scientists, artists, engineers, all sorts of disciplines.
Wow, 150. That's quite a contingent.
Huge. And imagine the secrecy around it. 55,000 soldiers set sail, most of them having no idea where they were actually going.
Seriously, they didn't know the destination.
Nope. Even many of the scholars, they were recruited with these vague promises of some significant undertaking. Very cloak and dagger.
A truly ambitious plan, then, gathering such a diverse, talented group under wraps.
It really was. Their first stop was Malta. Napoleon strategically seized it in just 2 days. Quick work. And showing his penchant for acquiring valuable things, he didn't leave empty-handed. Claimed a considerable collection of treasures from the Knights of Malta.
Right, adding to the collection even before reaching Egypt.
Exactly. So from there, this massive expedition, this blend of military might and intellectual firepower continued towards Egypt, setting the stage for this completely unexpected chapter in, the study of ancient Egypt.
Okay, so the military side of the campaign unfolds, but what were the initial outcomes regarding the study of Egypt itself?
Well, here's the twist. While Napoleon's actual military ambitions in Egypt, they didn't really succeed long term.
Right, it wasn't exactly a military triumph in the end.
Not at all. But what the campaign inadvertently achieved was laying the very foundation for modern Egyptology. That group, those 150 scientists and artists he brought, their dedicated efforts documenting everything they saw amidst the chaos of war. That was absolutely pivotal.
It's pretty remarkable, isn't it, thinking of them doing serious scholarly work under those kinds of conditions?
Absolutely. I mean, they faced a harsh desert climate, for starters.
Sure.
And that famous Battle of the Pyramids.
Yeah.
It didn't happen right at the pyramids. It was in a melon field near a town called Mbaba.
Huh. Not quite the image one has.
Not really. Then, the major turning point, militarily anyway, was the Battle of the Nile. Nelson's victory.
Ah, the naval defeat. Devastating for the French.
Totally devastating. It effectively stranded Napoleon and his forces in Egypt, cut off their supply lines, any easy route back to France. Gone.
A huge setback for the campaign, obviously, but maybe inadvertently created this unique space for the scholarly side.
Exactly. And here's where the story gets really fascinating. Stranded, facing military disaster. What does Napoleon do? He establishes an institute dedicated purely to the study of Egypt.
Wow, stranded. Wow. Talk about a pivot.
Incredible, right? And a key figure in this whole thing was this incredibly resourceful engineer named Conte. Napoleon famously said Conte had all the arts in his hands and all the science in his head.
High praise.
Well, when their supplies and equipment were lost with the fleet at the Nile, Conte was apparently able to just recreate almost anything they needed. Pencils, tools, scientific instruments.
Amazing. A testament to human adaptability and just how crucial ingenuity is in exploration.
Absolutely. So while battles are happening around them, this dedicated team is meticulously documenting Egypt, sketching plants, animals, studying the geography, and crucially for our story, uncovering and recording the remnants of the ancient civilization.
And they had to be resourceful, right? Cairo wasn't exactly a scientific supply hub.
Not at all. They really relied on their own ingenuity, and Conte's ability to make things was just indispensable. He provided the tools for their work,
Ensuring that the pursuit of knowledge could actually continue, despite all the logistical nightmares of war.
So eventually Napoleon, ever the opportunist, slips back to France, leaves his command behind.
Just leaves.
Pretty much. And upon his return, he presents this rather glorified version of his Egyptian adventures. Even commissioned medals commemorating his supposed victories.
Ah, the spin.
Meanwhile, the British, who knew the real situation, they had a field day with satirical cartoons, often showing Napoleon scientists, more interested in digging up artifacts or chasing butterflies than actually fighting.
A stark contrast, then, between the official narrative and the reality on the ground.
Indeed. But if we look beyond the military outcomes, beyond the propaganda, the long-term impact on Egyptology is just undeniable. One of the biggest achievements was the publication of the Description de l'Egypte.
Ah, yes, the description. Monumental work.
Absolutely. This huge multi-volume work was completely groundbreaking. For the first time, the West got access to detailed, relatively accurate pictures of Egypt's monuments, temples, its natural history.
And it sparked something, didn't it?
Oh, massively. It ignited this widespread fascination, what we call Egyptomania, all across Europe. Suddenly, you see Egyptian motifs popping up in furniture design, women adopting hairstyles thought to be ancient Egyptian.
It really shows the power of that visual documentation, doesn't it? The allure of this rediscovered ancient world.
And it wasn't just about looks. Those French scholars, they diligently collected samples, plants, animals. Now, here's a really interesting bit.
Okay.
When the British finally won and the treaty was being negotiated, the initial terms said all the collected antiquities would become British property.
Ah, spoils of war.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the French scientists, who'd risked so much to gather these things, they vehemently refused. Said they'd rather burn their collections or face consequences in England than just hand them over.
Wow, strong stance.
It was. And in a surprising move, a sort of act of magnanimity, the British actually allowed them to keep their scientific materials, the natural history specimens.
Really? That's quite something.
It is. And that decision played a crucial role in developing modern museum collections. Those items eventually formed the core of many European natural history institutions.
A pivotal moment, then, for preserving and sharing that knowledge. Shows a degree of intellectual respect, even amidst the conflict.
Absolutely. And perhaps one of Napoleon's most significant, though totally unintended contributions, was his instruction to accurately copy the hieroglyphs.
Even though no one could read them.
Exactly. Their meaning was a complete mystery. But for years, these dedicated people painstakingly documented these intricate carvings, just drew exactly what they saw.
Meticulous work.
Incredibly meticulous. And that work, combined with a later, totally serendipitous discovery, the Rosetta Stone, proved to be the absolute key.
The key to unlocking the language.
The Rosetta Stone, unearthed by a Lieutenant Bouchard, had the same inscription in 3 scripts: hieroglyphic, the formal, ancient script; demotic, a later, more cursive, everyday script; and crucially, Greek.
Greek, which scholars could read.
Exactly. The presence of the Greek text immediately signaled its potential. This could be the translation tool they needed, the missing link.
Finally, a way to access millennia of Egyptian history, culture, everything locked in those symbols.
Precisely. Now, the actual Rosetta Stone itself, it ended up in British hands. General Menu, who took command after Napoleon left and another general died, actually tried to claim it as his personal property.
His personal property? Seriously?
Yep. But the British weren't having any of that. They knew how significant it was. They asserted their claim, and today, of course, the Rosetta Stone is in the British Museum.
Right, famous resident there.
But, and this is really important, the French scholars, recognizing its immense value immediately, had made copies, plaster casts, ink rubbings of the stone.
Smart move.
Very smart. And they shared these copies with scholars across Europe. This fostered this collaborative spirit that ultimately, years later, led to Jean-Francois Champollion deciphering the hieroglyphs.
It really highlights the power of sharing knowledge, doesn't it? That collaborative nature of scientific progress, even across national rivalries.
So as we look back at this whole period, it's just truly remarkable how a military campaign, which ultimately failed in its main objectives.
Yeah, militarily, not a success story for France.
Not at all. But it sparked this profound intellectual and cultural awakening. It fundamentally reshaped our understanding, our appreciation of the civilization of ancient Egypt.
It really does leave you contemplating how often in history these seemingly failed endeavors, end up yielding unexpected, transformative results in completely different fields.
A truly thought-provoking point to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Timeless Egypt series here on Beyond the Known.
Always a pleasure.
If you enjoy this exploration, please do like, follow, and subscribe for more journeys into the fascinating corners of history.